Hi, this is the Second Mix Podcast, and I am Matt Bennett. Here's a question for you all to think about today and every day that could absolutely change your life. What is one thing that you can do today that will make this the most valuable day possible? Keep in mind that you're in charge of your own life if you want to be, so take the reins and guide your life where you want it to go. On the show with me today, I have guest author and business coach Dave Molenda. Dave is the founder of Positive Polarity, and he grew his startup business into a $10 million company before selling it. Now he's passing on what he learned as a coach and paying it forward. Let's get this thing rolling in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Second Mix Podcast, where we reflect, revise, and remix our lives. I love to talk about things that matter with people who care, and I'm here today with a dose of self-development to help make you better, stronger, and wiser. My name is Matt Bennett, and I'm bringing you some old school personal development from the original masters of motivation, as well as interviews with entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, and consultants, anyone who has a mission of making things better. What is it that you do?
What a great question, Matt. Thank you. I am actually a business coach and I am a sales coach. And that means different things to different people. So it really just depends on the client's needs and how they feel, what they're missing, what their blind spots are, things that they're not necessarily good at, but they know need to get done. So I have a wider range probably than most people.
When you walk into a situation, when you have to talk to a client,
Sure.
How do you trust that you're going to have the experience to be able to help them?
Well, so for me personally, I started my own business in the 90s and grew it from $0 to 10 million in annual sales. 0 people on the group on my team to 22 people on my team. We were leading in our industry. We were leading it with innovation. We were leading it with trying new things. We had 3 of the 5 top customers in our niche. So I refer back a lot to that. And If it's something outside that I either have never done before or I'm not capable, I'm always looking to bring in partners that have done it before. I asked the question, Matt, if you had to have brain surgery and you had 2 doctors to choose from, and you had one guy that's read every book and he's gone to every class, but he's never done it, as opposed to a guy that's never read anything, but he's done it his whole life, which one of those would you want to be operating on you? And no right or wrong answer. I just would rather have the guy that's done it 100 times before.
Yeah, definitely the second guy.
Yeah, I look at the same thing as a business coach. Would you rather have somebody that knows all this, has all the certifications and approved by every whatever in the country, or do you want somebody that literally can show you how they've done it over the past 30, 40 years? So that's that, but that's just me. So, to each his own.
Right. No, I definitely would go with the second guy, because the first guy is going to go into my brain and he's going to cut something that he's not supposed to cut. And he's like, oh, that's what that book meant when it said, don't
oops. Yeah, exactly. Do this after you do that. It's like, and then before, and oh my gosh. Again, nothing wrong with books. I read a lot. I learn a lot. I have my own podcast as well. So I'm always learning from other people. So I think I'm a lifelong learner. It's just that I would rather have somebody in the trenches with me that know how to use the gun, rather than, let's refer to the manual as we're getting attacked, right? We're in the bunker. We're reading up on how to use this gun. It's too late by then, at least in my opinion.
Absolutely. As a business coach, where do you see most businesses right now having their problems with? Everybody's changing and a lot of people are moving toward entrepreneurship. Where do you see most businesses having trouble?
Yeah, that's a great question. What people are struggling with is finding the right team. There's a shortage of people. There's a shortage of good people. There's a shortage of qualified people. Usually for the groups that I'm working with, it's not a shortage of sales. It's not a shortage of customers. It's not a shortage of new opportunities. It's really a shortage of taking that opportunity and turning it into a sale, turning it into a happy customer, turning it into a repeat customer. So I invest a lot of time and energy, Matt, on the team itself because, again, Gallup's poll every year says 1 in 3 people in the workforce are engaged in their job, which means 2 out of 3 people aren't engaged, which is just, it's painful. And we as consumers, whether we drive through Taco Bell or we talk to somebody from our credit card company, we can tell the difference between somebody that's engaged and somebody that's not. So that's really been a passion of mine, is to build teams as engaged as possible.
Do you find people that are already going to be engaged, or do you teach people to be engaged?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. That's a great question. I mean, I think about it that the visual I have is if you have 10 people on your team, the statistics show that 3 people are actually rowing out of 10. So on a boat, on a little canoe, there's 3 people doing all the work, and most of the work by, rowing. And then there's 5 people that are just sitting there saying, it's not my job. They're trying to get out of work as much as possible. There's that piece. And then there's 2 people in the back that are literally jumping ship, and they are trying to take as many people with them. So my goal is for entrepreneurs and business owners, if we have 3 people on our team that are rowing and 5 that aren't, how hard would it be to teach some more of those people how to row? So instead of 3 people, maybe we have 5 or 6 people rowing. So we might have hidden gems on our team of people that want to be engaged but don't know how. So I work with those people, and we then also work with the engaged people and teach them how to row better and faster and more effective.
Okay. So are there industry secrets that I can't know, or how do you talk to those people that aren't engaged?
Well, all the industry secrets, I just do the Men in Black pen on you, Matt. So you'll forget everything I tell you. So
okay, that works.
Oh, the cool part is on the engagement part is so much when I talk about engaged employees and how they drive growth. All the tips that we talk about, they don't cost money. To invest in somebody, to say hi to somebody, to ask people how they're doing. In my book that I wrote, we talked about these 4 things that, again, Gallup found that people want in the workplace. And I tell you what, they want hope and compassion. Those were 2 of them. So, if you're listening and you're not really sure the actual health of your team, why not sit down with them, either one-on-one or as a group, but invest some time with people rather than catch them doing something wrong, catch them doing something right, praise them for a job well done, give them confidence, encourage them. All these things that we can do as leaders, Matt, don't cost any money. But it takes time, and a lot of entrepreneurs have more money than time. And so this is the problem, is if an entrepreneur is listening and he's like, man, he or she, I just don't have the time to sit with my team. Well, you can't expect your team to learn your ways and to treat the customer with exceptional quality if you don't invest time with them. They don't just naturally wake up and go, oh my gosh, I'm engaged. I love this company and I'm going to do everything I can. And so time becomes probably the hardest barrier to overcome. And quite frankly, that's why I am involved in a lot of companies. I come in and help with that engagement. I come in and on behalf of the leader, whether I sit with the leader, whether I sit with the team or both, we're working through ways to help understand what individual attention is needed. The secret sauce is really connecting with your team in ways that your team will definitely appreciate.
Okay, that's some pretty valuable information. And it would seem, and tell me if you agree with this, that you would actually, the time that you take to do this, that you're stealing from your day that you had planned, the time that you take to do all this stuff is actually going to come back to you, probably multiplied, because your team, if your team's growing, it's going to give you more time to do the things you need to do.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at your team, you have a high turnover. If you look at your team and you have high absenteeism, if you have low customer engagement, you look at things like that, you have toxic employees on your team. If those are things that are happening, if you do nothing, I mean, it's kind of like a cavity in your mouth and a tooth, really without divine intervention, it doesn't go away. And these people don't go, they do go away, but the problem stays, that toxicity stays. And we've all probably worked in workplaces where it was toxic. I was just on a call yesterday with a group, and one person's just starting a new job because they left purely, Matt, because it was so toxic at their last employment. And so, I just look, if you have high turnover, that's the first question I ask is, why are they leaving? And usually it's because there's a bad leader involved. There's some toxic things going on. So if you do it right the first time, it does take more time. Absolutely. But to your point, Matt, it turns 5, 10, 20 times back for you. And you're going to be way happier. And the best part is your customers are going to be way happier as well. And I think that's where we miss that. Is if we don't have an engaged team, or we have a unhappy team, we're going to have an unhappy customer. The research is out there, and that's what it's proven. So if you want a happy customer, you got to go back and make sure you have a happy team.
Okay. Do you do any coaching of the leaders to tell them how to deal with these toxic people? Like you say, I'm going to be here for a month. I'm going to be here for 60 days helping you out, but then I'm going to leave. You need to be able to deal with these toxic people.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't really want to be there. I have clients that I am there every week for years and years and years, which is fine because the leaders identified a weakness that they have and they're better suited doing something else. But a lot of leaders want to learn and want to be able to eventually do it themselves. So if people are up for it, then you know what? We teach a man to fish, or give a man a fish, he's satisfied for a day, and you teach him how to fish, he's satisfied for his life. I'm open to either one. It just purely depends on what the leader's long-term goals are. If eventually they want to run their own healthy organization independent of any outside influence, absolutely, can definitely help them there. Or there are certain people that say, you know what, I don't have this skill and I don't really have an interest in learning this skill. So please come alongside me and let's do this together. So I'm fine either way. It just purely depends on the desire of the leader.
Okay. All right. So I've been looking at your book in the background there, and I ordered it from Amazon, but it has not arrived yet.
Oh, thank you.
I ordered it yesterday because I was thinking I need.
Oh my gosh, it didn't show up yesterday. I'm really sorry.
It did not. It didn't pop right over to my house.
Oh my gosh.
I also had to ask, because I've got to get this off my mind before.
Sure.
Do you really think the Men in Black pen would work over Zoom?
Oh my gosh, totally. I bet you it would. I would ask Will Smith, but he's probably not taking my call anymore. But I totally think it would work. And I don't want to try it today because I don't want to mess with your listeners, but I think it might work. And I just don't want everyone to forget what we just taught.
Your book, Growing on Purpose, is that who is that for?
It is for any entrepreneur or business owner, anybody in sales. It's really a business book for anybody that is growing by mistake right now, whether professionally growing, personally growing, whatever growth you're experiencing. If it's not intentional growth, if you can't look back and replicate it, that's really what this is for. Because like I said, Matt, I run into a ton of people that grow by mistake. And I say, how did you get to where you are? And they look back and go, I don't know. And I'm like, well, if you wanted to replicate it so you can continue to grow, how is that going to happen? So that's really the thought process. And the two main keys are strengthening your team, which we talked about, and improving your customer's experience. Those two pieces will create profit in your company. So if you're involved at all with your team, if you're at all involved with a customer, you'll definitely gain some knowledge from reading this book.
So Growing on Purpose is geared toward my dealings with my team and my dealings with my customers.
Correct. Yep.
So how do I grow on purpose as opposed to the growing on accident?
Sure. Yeah. And a lot of it is the intentionality piece. We talked about some things for your team. If you do these things, these four, I don't want to give them away because I don't want, especially for you, you got the book on the way. So I already feel bad. But I mean, I think the best takeaway of this is you cannot do one without the other. You can't have, if you have people on your team and you have customers, they have to be treated pretty much the same. I think of a team as an internal customer, and then I think of a customer as an external customer. I don't know why business owners and entrepreneurs choose to treat their team in a different respect than they do a customer. They're both human beings. They're both a vital part of the success of that transaction and that relationship. And if you're going to treat your team bad, you will then see your customer treat you bad, or you will see your team treat your customer bad. So you can't have one without the other is really kind of the whole premise on the book.
That makes a lot of sense. I like the way that you phrase that. You have your internal customer and your external customer, and you do in treating your team. I agree 100%. You have to treat them just like, there's people, as I'm a landlord, and if I go to my tenants and treat them like junk and don't take care of their needs in their houses, they're going to leave. I have to find somebody else to move into that place. And until I say, look, they're like, my customers are like my clients and they're my boss, right? They're both. And if I'm not treating them well, then also the contractors that I have to get to go do the work on the houses.
Absolutely.
That's the team I'm putting together. And who's gonna come back if they're waiting 3 weeks for a paycheck, or if I complain about their work, like over the top complain.
Well, and especially in today's environment where if you find a good contractor, let's say, you're going to do everything possible to keep that contractor. So let's say you find a painter. I have a great painter that he's fantastic, and he comes and he, whatever we need painting around the house, he takes care of. And, if I didn't treat him with respect and didn't thank him and didn't ask nicely and didn't pay on time, and I just didn't treat him very respectful, which again, none of that costs any money. It's just a mind shift. So if I treat him respectfully, and then and then he looks down at his phone when I call him, and he's like, well, shoot, the last time this was a disaster, so I'm not taking that call. I turn up to be on the bottom of the list, just like you with your contractors. And I'm guessing your tenants talk. And so worst thing is if you have some vacancies and you can't fill them, because all these tenants are saying, oh my gosh, Matt's, this Matt guy, he's horrible. I wouldn't rent anything from him. That starts getting out in the marketplace. It's really a challenge to fix that in the long term.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't want to be the guy where they're saying, look, just don't rent from that guy.
Exactly. Yeah. Or don't work in that company, don't buy anything from them. Whatever your negative review is, whether on social media or just verbally, a lot of times it is something that we could have prevented. Now, there are certain people that just are constant complainers, but I'm guessing that number is so minimal. I'm thinking in my head, it's between 2 and 5% of the world are just looking for something for free, constantly going to complain. And the vast majority of people are really not that way. So if we treat them right, they're going to treat us right. And that's just I wish that there were more businesses that had that philosophy.
Yeah. And I do notice, as far as word of mouth goes, when you're reading reviews of anything, you can almost tell who really had a problem and who's a complainer. So I don't think those constant complainers hurt us as much as a genuine person with a genuine problem.
Yep, absolutely.
Because those constant complainers, everybody around them knows they're constant complainers, and they just kind of filter them out.
Right.
So yeah, not so much worry about that as just treating the people right that you need to be treating right.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're all consumers. So flip the tables. We've all had a bad experience at a restaurant. We've all had a bad experience with our credit card company or cable, whatever. We've all had these bad experiences. And, could they have been avoided? I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of situations that I'm in, if people would just apologize for the mistake and how can we fix this, it's way easier than having to go through this long litany of trying to have them justify why you're having a problem. That's the second part of the book, is make sure you're improving your customer's experience. And I think that we have a big blind spot in our world and business, thinking that, oh my gosh, our customers are fine. And a lot of times they're not fine. And so if you're in that spot and you feel like you are unsure, you need to ask your customers, poll your customers, survey your customers, get some feedback from your customers so that you're able to really know firsthand, because we're in our mind, our company is a lot stronger than it might be. And we are just, think of Blockbuster, how'd they go from 10,000 stores to one? Now I just heard that the last one finally just closed. And I don't know if that's accurate or not, but how do you go from 10,000 to one? A lot of it is a bad experience for the customer. 5 minutes to 9, I don't know about you, Matt, but 5 minutes to 9, I'm driving frantically to the Blockbuster store so I avoid that $3 late fee. And there's the guy closing the door quickly so I can't get in there, as opposed to, oh my gosh, thank you, sorry, be helpful, whatever, let me get it for you, whatever. It just is crazy how the customer experience is not improving as much as we'd like it to.
Do you have any particular ways you recommend for getting feedback from the customers?
I am the old-fashioned way. I just pick up the phone and say, hey, how's it going? And if you feel like your customers wouldn't give you a straight answer, then that's where you employ people like me to help you with that. Then there's plenty of other people out there that you can ask. If you have somebody in your circle of influence that you trust, that's a business coach or some kind of business advisor, that is probably a higher likelihood of having success on feedback. I get feedback from my clients, so that I can help them get better. Because again, how do I know if I don't ask the question? I'm really limited on my view. So start by asking them. If you're not comfortable with that, you can use, Survey Monkey's a free thing. You can try something like that. You can enlist somebody to do the work, but just try something.
Right.
Trying something and failing is better than not trying anything and making a huge assumption that the customer is in love with me and nothing will ever change that. That's a scary spot to be.
Okay. And then presumably then you would also recommend that a leader would do top-down reviews to his team. Bottom-up reviews to his team, where the team would review the leader and how things are going in the workplace.
Yeah, they call that a 360 review, where you basically, as a, whether it's a leader, anybody in a company could have a 360 review where, and again, I hate these words, but it just makes sense. People below you, people at your level, and then people above you. If all of those people are involved in reviewing an individual, then it's definitely eye-opening. It's definitely gives you a great perspective that you might not have had before. It's tough because, again, if you have somebody that is a lower level team member from a responsibility standpoint, and they're asked to rate the man, the boss, the lady, whatever, it opens it up for some real uncomfortable potential. But you got to have ground rules to set to make sure people are doing it respectfully, and this isn't a personal vendetta and things like that. It's really trying to better the team and better the leader at that point.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I kind of want to find out how do you find work doing this? Because it is something that I'd be interested in, not doing the same thing you do, but going in and consulting with businesses. How do you find work?
Yeah. So for me personally, I have people, I do a lot of speaking around the country. And so when I speak around the country, like I was just at Lambeau Field in Green Bay not too long ago, and, speaking to a group of people, and we were talking about engagement, we were talking about the book. And then afterwards, somebody came up, emailed me, comes up after, whatever. And so I know that that's one way for me to do it, is to get out and get the message out to people. I have my own podcast. I'm on shows like yours. So there's all these different ways to do it. quite frankly, if you have a sphere of influence right now, Matt, and so if you look at that group of people and say, what are you struggling with? If you get what's one or two things, it's really important on how you ask this question. Because if I said, hey, how are things going, Matt? And you're going to go, oh, they're going fine. You got any problems, Matt? Oh, no, everything's good. Okay.
Right.
We tend to be that nonchalant about it. But if I said, hey, Matt, what are one or two things right now that you're struggling with in your business? And I just stop right there and I wait. I give them some time to process, and then I wait for an answer. If the answer falls into either the team or the customer, I mean, if they say, my gosh, we have product problems and vendor problems and blah, 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 I might not be able to get involved in that. But when they start talking about team or customer, my antenna goes up, and that's where I then start to ask deeper questions. I would jump on a free call with them for half hour to an hour just to see how much I can fix. I fixed a lot of we had a call, fix it, and then that's it. Every life goes on. And so people get a lot of free advice, for me. But then that might turn into something else. So I would start with your immediate group, Matt, and find some people that might have an issue. We can't all be good at everything. I'm horrible at accounting, so I have a CPA firm. I have my my office manager that helps do a lot of that. So I just find where I'm weak, and then I put people in that have that strength. If you find out what your strength is, Matt, then people will start to realize that, oh my gosh, Matt's good at this, whatever this is, and I'm not. So, hey, Matt, could you help? I got a question about that. And then it starts there, and it just moves up after you get the engagement started.
That's one of my biggest problems, and that's probably the biggest problem for a lot of listeners of the show. What is my one strength? I feel like I do have a lot of range, and it's like, how do you pick one path? How do you say what my strength is? If I feel like I'm 90% in 10 areas instead of 100% in one area.
Sure. Yeah. And we talked about it before. I don't have a problem. People say you're, what is it? Master of none.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Master of none. Right. And I'm like, you know what? I totally get it. Somebody told me once, Dave, if you can sell to left-handed blue-eyed plumbers and be successful, then that's what you should do. Well, my DISC assessment says that I get bored easy. So for me to sell to just left-handed blue-eyed plumbers for the rest of my life, I know my personality is I'm going to get bored with that. So why not find some things that really inspire me? And again, the three main parts of every company is their team, their customer, and their product or service. Those are really the three buckets. I focus on two of those three buckets. So every company has customers. My strength is in that piece, understanding the customer and things like that. You could take Strength Finders, that Strength Finder assessment that gives you your top 5 strengths. That might help you along your journey understand what you're good at. We offer a DISC assessment that will definitely show you what you're good at from a soft skills perspective. It'll say where your emotional intelligence is, gives you some feel for what you're not necessarily good at mechanically, but what you're built to do. I'm built to talk to people. I'm built to be engaged with people. If you hired me and put me in a cubicle and for 10 hours a day I was doing spreadsheets, I couldn't do it. And there are plenty of people that would just be loving that job, which is great. I personally, the way I was built, I just couldn't do that. You got to find out what you're good at, not necessarily technically, but what you're built to do, what you're good at from that perspective. And then the mechanical part tends to follow along afterwards.
Okay.
I can talk about anything. I can talk about team. I can talk about customer. I can talk about soft skills. But like we talked about before, the brain surgery, if you ask me a brain surgery question, I can't help you with that. That's the technical piece. Now, I might be able to help you understand what the patient is feeling, what they're thinking, their fears, ways to deal with their fears. Hey, we got to get them out of their comfort zone. I mean, that sort of stuff is really different than the actual brain surgery part of it. So,
right.
Answer. Hope that made sense.
It definitely did. I would be interested. How do you go about taking a DISC assessment?
So we just basically send you a link and you take the assessment, and then it's scary because you invest about 20 minutes of your day, and then the results come and it's 60 pages about you. And it's so darn scary how accurate it is. Now, a lot of people are like, well, that's not me. That's not me. That's not me. And I'm like, well, if you don't think that that's you, ask somebody that you're close to. A spouse, significant other, some trusted team member, somewhere in your life, there's somebody that you trust. If you don't think that's you, then ask them, because it's 95% accurate. And it's just crazy when you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, that is me. And the cool part is you're able to then understand what you're built to do. I'm built for sales because it's easy for me to help somebody. It's easy for me to persuade somebody in a certain direction. That's how I'm built. Now I can fight that if I want, or I can just realize, hey, that's how I'm built. And let's work on finding something that's really good. You know, what do you need persuasion for? Sales. What a great thing. I got this thing. You don't know about it. I want to tell you about it. I want to tell you how awesome it is, and see if we can work for you. That's the thing, is once you find yourself on that DISC assessment, Matt, then you're able to determine better what job fits your personality and fits your style. Then we can look at all the other parts of that after the initial start.
Okay. Does the DISC assessment cost anything?
Yeah, normally it does. For you, I would be more than happy to get you a free one. For your listeners, if they want to participate, we would definitely get you a free one. But normally they're $200.
Okay.
And you get 60 pages. It's the best $200 you'd ever spend. But the thing is that I make sure if you take it and then you don't use it, it's kind of, then it's, you wasted $200, and then you're mad at me, and then you're mad at yourself. So I tell people, really don't do it if it's not going to become, this is something that becomes part of you. You know, the best people take their assessments and they read a page a day. You know, if you can't invest 3 to 5 minutes a day in your personal development, which is fine, then just don't do it. But if you're interested in understanding, I mean, it tells you how best to communicate with you, how not to communicate with you. So imagine from a personal perspective, you have this discussion with your significant other. Hey, these are some of the ways that I love to be communicated with. Or you're on a team and you have a leader and you show this page to your leader and you say, hey, Mr. Leader, Mrs. Leader, this is how I want to be communicated with to have maximum success in our interaction. Now, what leader would be like, no, put that away. I don't want to have maximum success in our communication. So it just hits so many different levels. So it's just a great tool.
Okay. It does sound like a great tool. I would love to take it.
Sure.
But I would also probably like to say, like, to my listeners, anybody who is, it's not worth the $200 if you're not already working on your personal development. But once you're into it and once you're thinking about that every day and how can I be better? How can I do this? And then you get this valuable 60-page book of information that says, this is how you can be better. This is how you can relate to people. This is how you can do all these things that you're trying to change about your life.
Right. And I think the cool part about it, Matt, is it's designed for you. So the way my path to success is going to be different than your path to success based on how you answer the questions. So it's not a one size fits all, do this, and this, and you'll be forever happy. That's not what this is. This is really deep dive into different things. Like I said, how do you want to be communicated with? How don't you want to be communicated with? What's your ideal environment in, your day-to-day activity? How do you like to be managed? What motivates you? That's a really hard question to ask most people. What motivates you? Is it money? Is it status? Is it controlling things? I don't know what it is. Everybody's got a different thing that motivates them. And we use them in interviewing all the time. It's a really solid tool as well. Because again, if I'm applying for a job with you and Matt's looking for a person with experience in bookkeeping, I could easily lie my way through that. Just Google some stuff the night before, use the buzzwords. I mean, it's easy. But I tell you what, if we take an assessment and we look and go, it's kind of a look under the hood, and the thing says, Dave, you get bored easy. So how are you going to do the same job for 8 hours a day, 50 weeks a year? So it just really gives you a totally different perspective.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to taking that.
Yep. We'll send the link, and we'll put the link that you get, Matt, you can put in the show notes for your listeners, and they can do the same assessment. They'll get the results sent to them via email once they take the assessment. And this might, prior to this call, you may have never really have thought about personal development, or you may have never thought about it to that level. This is a great first step if you never have, because everybody has to start somewhere. And you can buy a book, and the self-help book or whatever, you can buy it, but just remember that book is based on the author and the way that the self-help helps them. That's what's so powerful about this, is the disc is going to be based on how you answered the question. So it's going to be 60 pages tailored right around you. It's not 60 pages of Dave or Matt, and then you have to find the little hidden gems that really apply to you. It's everything will apply in a real positive way.
All right. Well, hey, let me ask you one more question before we go.
Yeah.
Dave, if you had the entire world on the line for 43 seconds and you could tell them anything you wanted to tell them to make the world better, what would you tell them?
Wow. I would tell them in 43 seconds that the best thing we can do is encourage other people and provide hope for other people and be positive. I mean, if you can narrow it down to positivity, hope, and compassion, those three things, if we really truly did that, just set aside the societal piece, just purely in business. I mean, imagine going to work every day and knowing that somebody's going to be compassionate with you. Somebody's going to, help you. Somebody's got your best interest in mind. That to me would change the society as a whole.
I agree. That's fantastic. I love it.
Did I pass?
You passed. You passed the 40.
I was worried about that. Thank you.
You didn't pass the 43 seconds either. So, I mean, you didn't go past 43 seconds. So it's
otherwise we'd back to the Men in Black pen again.
Right. I love it. All right, Dave, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on the second mix. I'm excited.
Before we go, I do want you to have a chance to tell everybody, where can they find you? What do you want them to know about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So best place is probably LinkedIn. There's not a lot of Dave Molendas out there, or you can go to positivepolarity.com. And that's where the podcast is, and that's where everything is. So my company name is Positive Polarity, and I'm a positive guy. That's why I love the wording. And I just want to encourage everybody here that positivity helps you live longer. Positivity makes everybody around you that much better, because face it, nobody wants to hang out with a negative person. So find something today that's positive and tell somebody, and I'm guessing it's going to be a better day for you just by doing that.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you so much, Dave. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Second Mix podcast. I am Matt Bennett. Please leave a review and give me an honest rating wherever you can. Subscribe on your favorite platform to hear the latest episodes. You can send an email to matt@secondmix.net or go to secondmix.net to read the blog, check out the resources, buy me a cup of coffee, and you can even leave me a voicemail right there on the site. Take steps that will make your week incredible and keep reflecting, revising, and remixing your life. I'll see you soon.